Some would say it's the perfect Fantastic Four movie.
Oh, it's a Fantastic Four movie we'll never get.
Yeah, but we already got it.
Yeah.
We're never gonna get this.
No.
Come on.
No.
He hit lightning on a bottle. Like when you have something so devastating in theme with the Iron Giant, and you make this project, and you're at peace with what happened.
Yeah.
In his personal life, to go ahead and make something about family.
Yeah.
You know, he lost family, but he realized his family was there, and he wanted to make something about a family who have powers.
Yeah.
That go through the day-to-day struggles of having kids and maybe not being able to use their powers and forcing themselves to have a normal life because they are banned from being what they are meant to be.
As soon as you were talking about this, I thought, holy moly, this is essentially it is really the opposite of the Iron Giant. The Iron Giant's all about manifesting the good in you no matter what, and always trying to do good. But in this one, doing good
has consequences.
Has serious consequences. Like they could go to jail, they could die, people could hunt them down. It's hiding who you are for the safety of yourself and your family, rather than physically just hiding this giant. Right? Yeah. Wow. It is very much a 180 in a lot of ways. But it still tells a great story of family and trust and eventually being true to who you are when you have that support of other people.
Right.
Whoa.
He made two
bangers,
fantastic movies back to back.
Holy moly! Oh, okay. Let's.
Here's the problem I have, Nick.
Yeah.
When I was ready to do this podcast the day after watching Incredibles, I had every single line ready to spew. I still know some of them, but I'm not as fresh as I was.
It's very fair.
So
yes.
we're just gonna dive into what makes this movie hold up and stand the test of time compared to other movies that do the same thing.
Right.
Like this is a superhero comedy. But what makes it different than every other?
Yes. So what
rollout that they've been doing the last 10 years?
I was going to say, what movies would you specifically pit against The Incredibles based on like family superhero comedy?
Okay, let's just, because people have said this is one of the best superhero movies of all time.
Yeah.
So let's put this against every other superhero movie that's ever been made.
Okay.
Because it is a superhero movie at the end of the day.
It is.
But there's something about it that it has an edge over every single other one.
To me, it is all of the characters learn how to be not just a team, but a family. I think you get one or the other in other movies, but you don't get both.
Right.
Right? Like Violet and Dash, like at each other's throats the whole time until they start having to work together, and they use their powers seamlessly with each other because they truthfully know each other so well. They've been together forever, but it takes actually listening to each other and learning who they are to do that. And is it Bob?
Yeah. His name's Robert. But they call him Bob.
Yeah. What's Elastigirl's name? Not Elastigirl.
Helen
and Bob. Yeah. And you are
Elastigirl. Yeah. Come on, get it together. God, pull yourself together, woman.
Best character.
Do you know that's Brad Bird?
Seriously?
Yeah, Brad Bird is Edna Mode.
No.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. That is so amazing. But I think they're Bob had to keep it a secret for the longest time, and because he was just trying to relive the glory days, and he knew that it was not safe, and he knew that it was irresponsible because he has a family to take care of now. But he's like, oh, but we're tight on money. I don't have a job, so I got to do this. But once once they all come together, it's like, well, yeah, we're not going to abandon anybody. We're going to do this as a team. Like there's no reason not to, right? Mm-hmm. That's what I think for me makes this movie just hit so hard. It's like, yes, like we are a family. We're going to do it. We're going to do this thing together because we're a family.
I got one word.
Yeah.
Reality.
Ooh, okay.
It's the reality of it being real.
Yeah.
It's a real setting, a real group of people.
Mm-hmm.
The stakes are what you live every day.
Yeah.
The reality of being stuck in a place where you don't want to be. The reality that families aren't perfect, but they could be. Mm-hmm. If you allow yourself to be a part of that family in their, like once they start trusting each other and allowing themselves into how they're feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Because Helen and Bob, they stopped communicating for a long time.
Yeah. And
you see that throughout the beginning of the movie until it's almost when she loses him and she thinks that she can't, like, she loves him, but she thinks he's cheating on her.
Right.
And finding a better, she doesn't think he loves his family.
Yeah. As
much as what he's off doing.
Right.
And I think there's only a few other superhero movies that have that reality in them, the consequences, because everything else is so fantastical.
Yeah.
And straight from like a comic book, it doesn't feel as heartfelt and real as The Incredibles does. Like another one I would say is Spider-Man 2. Mm-hmm. With Tobey Maguire's Peter Parker going through the loss of his powers because of the consequences of, channeling both of his lives.
Right.
Like there's something real about
stretching yourself too thin.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. There's something real about those movies, and say maybe like Iron Man 1 is just an amazing film.
Right.
But I think The Incredibles is the only one that's done family so well. Mm-hmm. And that the Fantastic Four movies have never gotten.
No.
There's like hints of it here and there, but they've never stretched it to a full movie.
Right.
I think the reality of the Incredibles being just an everyday family makes it work.
Absolutely. I love what you said about, accepting like your family as not necessarily perfect. And I'm like, yeah because nobody's perfect. And even looking back at the characters, they didn't change. They learned, right? Everybody has learned something, but they didn't change. They're still the same people, but now they're a team and now they're a family. And that to me is like,
it's so satisfying.
Yeah. They're not like this big, huge, different thing, but they're better, right? Mm-hmm. They're better together.
Yes. Was that like the tagline or something?
I think so.
It was the tagline for something.
Yeah. No, Meet the Robinsons. No, kidding. I have no idea. I've never seen that movie. But
like his family is a burden on his life because he's so lost.
Right, because he doesn't think that they can kind of like keep up with what he is expecting. Right. Mm-hmm. And it's like, well, you just got to talk to them. You got to ask, you got to say like, hey, I'm feeling this kind of way. What the heck can we do about this?
And they even touch on that in the movie when he hears when Syndrome plays the recording of his family dying on the plane. Mm-hmm. And then when she shows up to save him after she gives him the business and smacks him around, he immediately hugs her, and he didn't realize what he had until he almost lost it. Mm-hmm. And this family of his is something that he's been overlooking for years.
Exactly. It was always right there. Mm-hmm. Oh, so good.
It's fantastic. Who's your favorite character?
Edna, like just because she's literally just chaos, and but like I think in terms of like a genuine character, I think Helen is my favorite character because she is so badass. But she has that she is so insecure about her relationship because it got so real, right? She was like, oh, I might lose this person that I love and I've created a family with, and I don't know what to do about it. But she still loves him enough to go save him, right? Or go like kick his butt wherever he is. Mm-hmm. And I love how she kind of just snapped back into her role as a superhero, but also as a mother in the plane scene.
She's a protector.
Yes, and she does it perfectly. Like, it's just boom there. And she says, Dash, you do this, Violet, you do this. And everything is okay. And her comforting Violet after she thinks she's like not good enough, I was like, oh, like, you're just the best. Like, everything about her character.
She said she didn't prepare her for this. Like, right. They didn't allow their kids to flourish in their powers, to know how to deal with this.
She acknowledged her flaws. And like, how many characters or people in real life actually do that? Mm-hmm. So she is such a refreshing character. What about you?
Okay, it's always been Dash.
Okay.
It's always been Dash.
Tell me.
But as an adult,
the
relationship between Helen and Bob is very real.
Oh, yes.
And it's something you need to pay attention to because it is a real life situation that can happen.
Yeah.
But Dash has always been, like, as a kid, I loved running.
Yep.
And like I wanted to be funny and quirky. And like, he's so smooth.
Yes.
And he's quick. And he's obviously goes towards his personality of being really fast. Like, he's quick-witted.
Yep.
But he's really smart. But you can tell he wants to have his father see him. Like, as fast as he is, he's too slow, you know?
Yes.
For have his father notice him because his father's so lost. Mm-hmm. But then, like, the relationship between him and Violet is so perfect. But anytime Dash is in, when he gets the costume and he books it in, and where he's at the window, and he's like, Mom, what's that? Where do you get out? And he zooms in, he's like, oh, what is it? The Dash likes. It's like, it's so good. And the second they get on the airplane and she realizes the kids are on there, they immediately start arguing back and forth. It's such a little brother thing to do.
Oh, yes.
To just go after. It's like my niece and nephew, Maya and Will.
Yes.
They're like the same age difference.
I love that.
And you can see they went that last year. They went as the Incredibles as a family.
Amazing.
Because, you know, they had Nico, so he was Jack. And then Will was Dash, and Maya was, oh my gosh, what's her name?
Violet.
Yeah, we just said it. And then, you know, they were the parents.
That's amazing. Yeah,
Dash has always been my favorite. Just the way, if I had those powers, that's how I would act.
Absolutely.
Fun and free. When he's messing with those guards and he punches one of them in the face and he realized he like actually hit somebody for the first time. Yep. And he does like this, he does like a giggle. Yes. And he's like, he starts punching them really fast. And then when he realizes he can run on water.
Oh yeah.
He just brings so much joy. I think he's like the glue to messing with everybody in the family and really making everybody have a good laugh and realize they're a family. Like when Violet finally lightens up and she has that confidence. Violet also is an amazing character when she finally has the confidence to put the mask on.
Yes.
And like, I loved when Bob said, oh, you put your hair behind your ears or whatever.
Yes. Yeah.
And she's finally not covered up.
Exactly.
But yeah, Dash is something else. As much as I enjoyed watching it from an adult perspective, Dash is always going to be my favorite character.
For sure.
And you can't. It's too good.
And again, like most of the team up movies and characters we've discussed, like the Ninja Turtles, like there's something in all of the characters that we can kind of identify with that makes us associate with them, even if it is just a little bit. Like we get everybody, like you said, Helen, protector, like Bob, he's kind of the go-getter, if you will. Dash, troublemaker. Violet, she's a little anxious. Everybody's got all of that in them to different degrees. But when we separate them and make them their own characters, we can say, yes, I like that character, or I know who that character is now. And you just you love them very quickly.
Mm-hmm. But we are forgetting about the glue of the family, I think.
Yeah.
The outside glue, and I think Lucius.
Oh yes.
He I think is he's in my top 3 only because I love ice powers.
Yes.
But he adds such a bond to, like, he is not afraid to be there for this family.
Yes.
He is a ride or die friend.
Uh-huh.
He has some, I mean, Samuel Jackson brings it.
Absolutely.
But he has some great lines. He's there when the family needs him. He's Bob's best friend.
Yep.
But he'll do anything for the kids.
Yeah.
Like when he comes up at the end when they're all in the city, and he swings by and he surfs by, yeah. And Dash is like, Lucius. Like the kids clearly adore.
Yes. He is a
dad's
good
best friend.
Yes, he's a good adult figure for them, right? Yes, such a good character to have, and you think like, oh, I think that kind of character goes unnoticed a lot of the time, right? It's not like, yeah, they're not like a teacher necessarily. They're not like a blood relative. It's like, oh, it's dad's friend Lucius. It's like, oh yeah, he's super cool and he's really chill with the kids and
chill with the kids.
There it is.
Frozen.
I didn't even think of that. Yes, agreed. Great character.
I think the MVP, other than the family, is Syndrome. Syndrome is one of the best villains I think ever written because of the connective storyline that he has with the main character. Mm-hmm. Being that young kid, Incrediboy. And
that's good.
Thanks. he wants to be so much like his idol.
Yep.
You know, and we relate it back to Hogarth teaching the giant about Superman. Mm-hmm. Mr. Incredible is his Superman. He wants to be, in his eyes, worthy of being his partner in his presence. He wants to be just like him.
Yep.
It's like us growing up, putting on costumes and wanting to be like all our favorite heroes.
Exactly.
And one wrong situation that turns from him just wanting to help out to him thinking his hero betrayed him, turns him into one of the fiercest villains, snarky villains.
Yes. And
full of himself villains, I think, has ever been on screen.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, it's classic like Disney, right? It's very succinct. We have this story, but we got to remember, like, Incrediboy has been at like every meet and greet with Mr. Incredible, right? And Mr. Incredible knows him. He's a hi, buddy.
Fly home, buddy. I work alone.
Right. But that in itself is like, okay, so this kid, like if we really kind of pay attention to who Buddy is, it makes sense that this one instance set him on the path to being a villain, right? Mm-hmm. He is so dealing in absolutes that it's like, this is my one and only time to shine and impress my hero. And I failed and he has disowned me. So the only thing to do now is become the strongest supervillain ever.
Mm-hmm. It's like, and take out every single hero that's ever lived.
Yeah. It's like, what? Like, yeah, it's so radical, but you're like, yeah, I buy it. I buy it from this character. Mm-hmm. I think it's great. He is such a force. And
he's so flawed.
Oh yeah.
His charisma and his overconfidence is so fun to watch.
Yes.
I love the, you sly dog, you got me monologuing. He's just like, because he has him there, and it's something that movies don't point out often.
Right.
And the script is so cleverly written for him to put in those quirks of other movies that superhero movies have. Just adds to his character because he's so full of himself, and he's like, oh yes, I'm going to create all these weapons, and then I'm going to be the one to take them out because I can control
them,
the entire thing.
Yes.
Yeah. And I want my hero to be the last one to see it happen.
Right. Yeah. It's like the villain making the protagonist watch their loved ones die.
Yeah.
Right?
Which he does.
He does.
He does. And then when he first sees him and they do the real tight zoom in on his eyes.
Yep.
Because Mr. Incredible doesn't know who he is.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't remember the line he says, but then he immediately calls him Buddy.
Oh, yeah.
He says one of the lines that he said at the beginning of the movie, but it's like he's like real snarky with it. Like he saying this line will immediately...
Because he's going to jog his memory.
Yeah, it's going to jog his memory.
Yep.
But then the other stuff when he finally sees the family and he's like, whoa, hold on. He gives them in the laser, the freeze lasers. And he's like, Elastigirl? He's like, and then he sees the kids. He's like, you two got busy.
So good.
He's so evil, but he's so funny.
Yes. Yep. No, great character. Very flawed. Very
so
intense.
Flawed. He's so flawed.
Yep.
In the best way.
Right, and that's you're compelled to be like, okay, he's kind of endearing, even though he's absolutely nuts.
Yeah, and he's cutthroat. The girl he has working for him, he doesn't care about her at all.
No, she's just a pawn, right?
Yeah, because Mr. Incredible was going to squeeze the life out of her,
and he's like, do it.
And he's like, do it. I don't care. He's like, you don't have the guts to do this. He's like, I know you can't do this.
Mm-hmm.
Even though we knew Mr. Incredible wouldn't do it, the fact that he said he doesn't care about, like, for her perspective.
Yep.
Just no wonder why she, switched sides.
Like that. Exactly. Yeah.
Immediately.
Yep.
And I think what's so clever about the robot that Syndrome made.
Yes.
How its only weakness is himself.
Oh, yeah.
That's Syndrome's weakness is himself.
Exactly. Yeah.
So how
hubris.
Clever is it? Yeah. It's that he makes designs that are the weakness of them is itself.
Yep. It's, again, this is how you write a good, clever story. Mm-hmm. You mirror the unnatural with the natural, right? The machines mimic the creator, right? Mm-hmm. And you don't really, it isn't like explicitly said, but we know it, right? Ugh.
I don't know if it's because they're also controlled, like he's controlling them, but at certain points they're acting on their own. But the scene when Mr. Incredible first tests the robot in the lava, and he gets inside of it, the robot kind of panics, right?
Yes.
And starts blasting itself with its own claws.
Yeah.
But you can relate that to the very end when Syndrome is fighting the robot and he loses the thing that controls the robot, so he starts panicking.
Yep.
Like they both have the same
mannerisms.
Yeah. They're the exact same person, just without, they're fighting him the whole time.
Yeah. Well, yeah, the creation is going to react exactly how the creator would react, right? Yeah. Ooh, good detail.
Yeah. I just put that together right now.
I didn't think of like his panic, but that's exactly the same thing.
They do the same thing. And I love the other connection to, again, writing callbacks. Mm-hmm. You talk about Bob wanting to get his Stitch done, Edna creating him a costume, and she's like, no capes. And he's like, Diana guy, oh, he had a great look. He's obsessed with the look of a hero.
Yep.
And she's like, no capes. And what happens? Syndrome is obsessed with the look of a hero, and he dies by his cape.
Exactly.
It's so good. This movie is brilliant.
11 out of 10. Honestly,
it's honestly perfect. Oh, here's the other thing I want to talk about. Dash when they crash the plane. When they land, no, not the boat part. Right before that, we're dead. We're dead. For God's sake, we're dead. She's like, pull yourself together. We're dead. We're dead. Such a kid thing to do, too.
It is. Oh, it's so dramatic.
We're dead.
That is the best.
He's great.
I love it.
But the whole him putting the costume on, I think, is every kid's dream.
Oh yes.
He has his own. And the first thing he did was the hero pose. Right? He looked himself in the mirror and he's like, "Yeah, I like this." And then they finally, at the end, the family dynamic of them coming together, the scene when they first do the superhero pose,
Yes.
the four of them, and then Dash runs, like they have the pose, and then Violet's like, when she does her force field, and Dash runs around. It's one of the coolest moments in movie history.
Absolutely.
The forming of the family. Like, it was a quick, like, the family's in tune with themselves now.
Right.
Because they were on the run. Mm-hmm. Then all of a sudden they're together, and they're like, okay, let's kick it into gear. Like, we know what we have to do. And then the kids seeing their parents work together for the first time.
Yeah.
Because all they know is fighting.
Right.
Their parents just argue back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
And
so finally seeing that teamwork, they're like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's so cool. And then they're finally a team in the city and like doing stuff. And the thing that Bob does, he's like tells Dash to go along, like they're playing catch, like a real father-son thing.
Yep.
And the moment when, like you mentioned it earlier, with Violet not being able to do the force field. Mm-hmm. And at the very end, it pays off.
Oh, yeah.
When the plane crashes with Syndrome.
Yep.
And she saves the family. And Mrs. Incredible, Helen looks at her and says, "That's my girl."
Yes.
It's such a fulfilling final line for Violet's character.
Absolutely.
You know, the parents believe in their kids.
They do, yeah.
It's just Violet was so self-conscious and didn't believe in, like, obviously stretchy powers. That's Mrs. Incredible. Being invisible goes towards her just being someone who doesn't want to be seen.
Right.
You know, obviously that's a thing, but it pays off where she wants to be seen by the end.
Exactly.
Hence her new hairstyle.
Yeah.
You know, Tony Ridinger. Shut up.
She's comfortable being who she is. So she's willing to like be visible to people now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, I think everybody to some extent can associate with either Violet or Dash at some point in our lives. Are we a little shy? Are we a little,
I was both.
Right. Yeah. You're like, oh man, I want to do this, but also I'm super shy. And it's like, what do we do? We're like pulled between both extremes.
Yeah. And now we're Helen and Bob.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We're just doing our best and wanting to communicate, like be good communicators, not with just our partners, but with everybody, right? Because we know it's important.
Healthy relationships.
Exactly.
Another part I want to bring up with their relationship in general is how good of a team they are. Mm-hmm. And you see that at the end. They've been distant this whole movie, but it shows how well they work together when they don't have to communicate because they're back to being trusting of each other.
Yes.
But the scene of how far off they are in their parenting skills at the dinner table.
Yes.
When she tells Bob to cut his steak, and then she was telling him what happened at school today, and he's not even paying attention.
Nope.
Like her job is to be the mother, and she's clearly the one to put punishment on the kids. Like she's the enforcer. She wears the pants. She's the enforcer of the family, and he's just not there. He's the
ask
one.
Your mother.
Ask your mother.
Yep.
And when he clicks in only when he has a sign of like fun or there's like a
the use of
when
powers.
She says the use of their powers, that's exciting to him.
Yeah.
Where family is not exciting to him, but he forgets his family has the powers.
Right.
But they just aren't allowed to use them. And when she says Dash got in trouble today, and he's like, yeah,
that's nice.
That's nice. And she's like, he got sent to the principal's office, and he put a tack on the teacher's chair, and he's like, well, why did he do that? And he's like, oh, I didn't. You couldn't even see it on the tape. Yeah. And he's like, see it on the tape? Whoa, they didn't even see it on the tape. How fast have you been booking or something? He's like, yeah, you must have been booking. And Dash gets all excited because like he can't use his powers.
Right.
So for a kid who can't use his powers, this is so exciting that he gets to talk about using his powers.
Exactly.
And then she just goes back and they just start yelling at each other and they start fighting under the table.
Yep.
And then Lucius comes and breaks the tension.
Yep.
But yeah, they're so distant from each other at the beginning.
Yeah.
To how close they are and how much they need each other at the end.
Yep.
They
had different agendas essentially with how to raise the kids. And they never talked about it.
Right.
And that is what created this whole rift in the first place, I think.
Yeah, in that massive argument when he came home from bowling, quotes.
Right.
And he had that massive piece of cake.
Yep.
And he's like, why don't you let him go out for sports? And like something, I can't remember what he said about Violet, but she's like, you know why we can't do that? And he's like, because they'd be great. And they're yelling back and forth, and they both have points.
They do.
Right?
Yeah.
They both have points. And by the end of the movie, they allow them to do...
They allow them to thrive.
To thrive, yeah.
Yeah.
And he's like, he wants them... He's finally doing track and field.
Yep.
So busted. Like, his power, like, he can't. And he's like, he's watching his parents all, no, just pull back.
Yeah.
No, make it close. And he's like, what? And he's like, fine, I'll just get like third or something.
Yeah.
And all these other kids are gassed, and he's just like,
okay,
when's the next race?
Yep.
But then I love the final scene, even though it takes 15 years to pay off.
Yeah.
When they're in the car parking lot, and then the mole man comes up.
The
Underminer, yeah. The mole man. That was the one from Atlantis.
Yes.
And he looks down and the kids already have their masks on. It's so cool when he's sitting on his shoulders and Dash already has the mask on.
Yes.
Oh, it's such a good movie. And then it ends. I love the jingle. Ba-da-ba-ba-da.
Oh, it's the classic, like, James Bond, Mission Impossible, superhero kind of ending.
Yeah.
Jazz and superheroes just make so much sense.
It's been in my top 10 for ever. Like watching it, I've watched it probably about 7 times in my life, and it's never dropped.
Right. No,
but it's so good.
We've always, whenever we've chatted about like top movies, it's always up there for you, for sure. It's never not on that list.
Yeah. It's like this and Spider-Man 2 are my favorite superhero movies of all time.
Yeah. I agree with that. Absolutely. They're
different.
They are very different movies, but
I mean, I have to put Spider-Man up there because he's my favorite, but
right.
The Incredibles is better than Spider-Man 2, but Spider-Man 2 just has the edge because it's Spider-Man.
You
know, but it's also an amazing movie about what we talked about earlier, him being at his end and not knowing how to be there for the people that he needs to be for, or also being Spider-Man.
Right.
It's a classic Peter Parker tale.
Absolutely.
And they've touched on it, in other movies, but I think just the impact that number 2 had, especially at the time when it came out, 2004.
Yes.
For me as a kid, that was everything.
Oh, yeah.
And I could still watch it with yes, it's nostalgia.
Yeah, but
it's still the best one to me. It
still rings true to the message, and it's still very relevant. Despite, changes in VFX, it doesn't matter. It's just a good story to experience.